Hey everybody! So today we're going to talk some more about the galactic center, specifically planets, transiting planets conjunct the GC, the transiting GC moves slow as shit, but transit planets conjunct the GC is what we're going to be talking about and what that might do. But I want to start out with my disclaimer that I am not a galactic center expert. I have lots of astrological knowledge, but I am not an expert at the GC. Literally just fucking with astrology, fucking with ideas, and I reserve the right for any and or all of this to be wrong later. Without anybody being like, well, you said this. No, this is really just fucking around with astrology. So I was doing some transit work for a client, and I noticed that on November 2nd and 3rd, sorry, the dog started barking. The transiting galactic center will be conjunct transit Venus. So what does that mean? Now, what it means for you personally, I have no idea. I'd have to see your chart. But because it does depend on your natal chart as to how this will actually impact you in a personal way. I don't think that's very straight. Impact you in a personal way. But I have talked about, there is a difference. You can feel, transits are a collective thing. They are. I think people need to be more clear about that when they're doing like readings about transits. Some people kind of make it seem like all transits will impact everybody personally. That's not the case. This may happen and you might totally miss it because transiting Venus and transit GC aren't doing anything in your chart. Aren't lighting it up at all. But there is a collective feeling to transits. May not be personal, but there is a collective one. So let's talk, I've mentioned a lot of things about what the GC might represent. It might be a spiritual place. I think it probably is a spiritual place. And like a lifeline to other dimensions, other realms. I've mentioned that too. It is a black hole, so it's gonna warp, it's gonna distort, it's gonna change, it's gonna transform. It's going to scudify any planet or anything really. So I'm talking about a planet here. We talk about Venus. That, crosses over the event horizon into the black hole. So that's what the GC kind of does. So now we need to look at Venus. Here's Venus. There's a card for it. Now, Venus is a lot of things. Venus tends to get talked about really favorably. And it's like, what, the lesser benefic? It is a favorable planet for the most part. It is love, it is harmony, it is values, it is diplomacy. It is, did I say beauty already? Beauty and aesthetics. It's all of those, self-worth, charm. It is more feminine in nature. I know some people don't want to use that term here. You could also think of yin, using the term yin, or receptive. That would work too. But it is a more feminine, yin, receptive planet. Now, Venus does have, all planets are going to have a dark side, right? All of them do. We don't really people don't usually talk about Venus's dark side, because because it is like the lesser benefic. It's not something that people really talk about. They don't talk, same like they don't talk about Jupiter's dark side. Jupiter has a dark side too. Jupiter can be fucking nasty. It's dark side. But, these just don't really get talked about. But there is a dark side to Venus. Hedonism. Indecision. Now I have a friend who rags on Venus a lot, probably a lot more than I would rag on Venus, but he's not wrong. He says it's fake. He calls it fake, and he's not really wrong about that, because the dark side of Venus could be fakeness. It really could be, because a lighter side of Venus would be like beauty and aesthetics, right? Nothing wrong with that, but when it veers off into fake land, that is a problem, right? When it's so fixated on beauty, so fixated on aesthetics that it becomes fake, that's a problem. So I do see where he's going with that. He might rag on it more than I would, but I do understand where he's going with that, and don't really disagree with him from the point of view of a dark side. Me and Natalie were talking the other night about how Venus is actually, like, in space, the actual planet is very hostile. It's a very hostile environment. Which is, it's kind of funny because it's not thought of as a hostile planet. In astrology, it's not. But the planet itself is very hostile. It's a hostile environment. So that's kind of interesting. I would throw that in then as a dark side too. Because I think Venus can be, I mean, it might come packaged a little prettier, but it could probably be hostile too. It probably could. And, you know, I bring up the dark sides here because with the GC, with the planet conjunct the GC, I feel like the planet could swing really positively into the really positive realms of expression, or it could swing into the really negative realms of expression. And it might even kind of do a little bit of both at the same time. It could. Just all the twisting and turning and spaghettifying that happens when you've got a planet conjunct the GC. It does seem like it could really go either way or both ways at once, kind of not knowing which way to go. Because I think the GC can swing either in a positive or an easy or a challenging way. Put it like that. That's a better way to put it. So I'm looking at this on November 2nd and 3rd, seeing that this transit is coming up. Now, you'll probably, collectively, this will probably be felt a couple days before and a couple days after. After November 2nd and 3rd, but I think it is actually exactly conjunct the GC on the 2nd sometime. I'm not sure exactly what time, but I think it's later in the day. So it does feel like on this day, there might be some kind of collective warping of love or of values. Seems possible. And again, when I say warping, I know warping tends to have a negative connotation attached to it. I don't really mean it that way. I should probably use the word change, if you will, because I don't mean warp in a bad way, but it's just, yeah, change. I should probably change. So like changed values, changed love, ways of expressing love, or love needing to be expressed. That all just feels like that might be kind of weird on this day. So if you notice collectively anything being kind of different in that regard, this might be why. But it won't last long, and it doesn't necessarily have to swing in a challenging way. The reason why my mind goes to a little bit more challenging way in terms of the transit Venus conjunct the transit galactic center, is because the last time this happened was on January 6th of this year. Venus moves fast around the wheel, so it happened on January 6th of this year. Now, if you're not in the U.S., you may not give a shit about this, but this is when the Capitol riots happened. And you can see that warping of values. You can see that warping of values on this day. Now, I'm careful when I say that because it's I'm not saying that anybody is wrong, perhaps, in what they believe. I'm not saying that. But normally, even people that didn't agree with something, right, they wouldn't normally go and storm the Capitol like that. That wouldn't normally happen. So there is kind of a warping. There was sort of a warping in the values that happened that day for people to do what they did. There are also some echoes on November 2nd, 3rd of, coming up here. There are some other echoes to that day. Up against the U.S.'s natal chart there are. The moon will be in Libra like it was on the day of the Capitol riots. That'll be the same, which is interesting. I would just, you know, because and back to what my friend will say about Venus being fake. I would watch out for anything going on collectively on this day that might feel like almost ridiculously fake. Doesn't mean that it's not, that it doesn't mean that it is or it isn't fake, right? It may not be, may or may not be. I'm not going to get into all that. As far as that goes, I'm not getting into all that. But I would look out for things or for something that happens that almost seems so ridiculous that you're like, is this even true? You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that it is or isn't that it is or is not going to be true, but just that feels that way. That's like, oh my God, this is so ridiculous. Did this really just happen? Or this seems so out of character in terms of values, or in terms, like, you know what I mean? Like, I would keep your eyes peeled for something like that on this day, because there are some echoes to the day that the Capitol riots happened, especially if you're here in the U.S. And regardless of how you feel about the Capitol riots, or what side of the aisle you fall on, I don't give a shit what side of the aisle you fall on. I don't fall on either personally, so I don't give a shit. But I think regardless, that day was so strange. Like, it was just so strange. I think it had a lot of people sitting there going, did this really just happen? you know what I mean? I feel like I feel like something like that could come to pass over November 2nd, 3rd, or even a few days before, a few days after. I feel like it could. And it might not be like a big massive event like that, but it could be like a, I don't know, it could just be some news story that's like, it's like, what? That ties into the bigger scheme of everything, if you will. I don't know. I would just keep your eyes open. It's something I wanted to share with you all, throw out there. Just throw out there. Normally I don't do a lot of predicting on here. I've done some stuff for like Britney Spears' court cases and stuff. I don't normally make like collective predictions, and this really isn't a prediction per se, but it's more like a just keep your eyes open. Just keep your eyes open, because there are definitely some echoes from the transit to the day of the Capitol riots to this one coming up on November 2nd, 3rd. There are some echoes. So some similarities, other than just Venus conjunct the transiting GC. Anyway, I'm gonna get going. If you want to follow us on Instagram, you can find us at Let's Fuck With Astrology. I am at Saturn Season Astrology on Instagram. Natalie is at Apaterno Astrology on Instagram. If you want to like or subscribe or whatever the fuck people do with videos on YouTube, you can find us by searching for Let's Fuck With Astrology in the YouTube search bar. If you do the Reddit thing, come join us on the subreddit Let's Fuck With Astrology. And if you're interested in the star cards, go to letsfuckwithastrology.com/star-cards. And tonight, October 28th, from 6 to midnight, I will be at Paranormal Playland in San Antonio, Texas. I'll be the only one. There are going to be readers there. I'm the only reader that's doing astrology readings. I feel pretty special about that, honestly. But there will be like tarot card readers. I think there are going to be some people doing some energy work. I could be wrong about that, but I think so. I think I might be right. Other vendors selling stuff. So if you're in the area, want to come by and say hey, check it out, you should. All right, I'll see y'all later.